I cheated on my husband with his brother, and I have no regrets. Story time. Me and my husband were high school sweethearts. We got married when we were 20, and then we had our daughter when we were 26. And then we welcomed our son a few months later. I was working a really successful job, and we were living the life we'd always dreamed of in high school. My husband would shower me with flowers, gifts, he'd treat our kids like absolute royalty. But then over time he started to get more and more distant with us. I'd catch him on his phone secretly, and this really began to break down my trust. And that was when I discovered that he was having an affair. We did talk about this, and he said that he didn't feel fulfilled in the relationship anymore and that I'd become really distant. But this was just because I was working so hard to provide for the family since he didn't have a job. And I'm not gonna lie, I really wanted to leave the marriage at this point, but I decided to stay for the sake of our kids. We decided that it might be good to try out couples counselling. And I'm not gonna lie, for the first few months, it really worked, and we were back to our usual happy selves. Again, the cycle continued, he got really distant, and when I confronted him about it, he confessed to having more affairs and spending nights at other women's houses. He had even had other women in our home, in our bed. What is that about? I moved him into the guest bedroom because I'm not gonna lie, I couldn't even bear to look at this man at this point. Throughout all of this, my husband's brother Steve became my main support network. Steve was there for us all of the time. He would pick them up for school, he would look after them, he would make tea when I was working late. This went on for 2 years. 2 years! And at this point, my children started to call Steve Dad. Me and Steve were spending a lot of time together, and I'm not gonna lie, we both absolutely loved it. We really clicked. So for Christmas one year, he actually booked me, my husband, and our kids a trip to Fiji. Fiji! Steve was desperate for me and his brother to try and fix things. However, when my husband found out, he told us to F off. Like, babe, it's Fiji. Let's just go for the free holiday. He then just outright refused to go. In the comments, is anyone else turning down a free trip to Fiji? Because I know I'm not. Then had a screaming argument about it. He was saying how he's not going away with our little brats. He called our kids brats. He said that his kids weren't his anymore and they were mistakes anyway. And I'm not gonna lie, this one really upset me and kind of threw me off a little bit. So I thought about it for a little while and realised that this trip was going to happen, but I didn't want to go on my own with 2 kids. So naturally, I asked Steve. So this is now up to date. We went on holiday a week ago. Me, Steve, and all of the kids had an absolute blast. One of the best holidays I have ever been on. And my kids had such an incredible time with Steve. It makes me so happy knowing that they're gonna grow up with a father figure like him. So on this trip, we obviously, you know, got it on. And I'm not gonna lie, I chose the wrong brother, and the universe showed me the way to the right brother. But anyway, we got back this morning and I find my husband sat on the sofa. So like I said, I got home and my husband was sat on the sofa waiting for us. He was bloody fuming. He asked me why I thought it was a good idea to take his brother. And I was like, well, you weren't going to come, so I wasn't just going to go on my own. But he was saying that the right thing to do would have been to discard the ticket. My husband then started to get a little bit leery and he would not calm down. The only way he would relax was if Steve was to wait outside. So Steve went and sat in the car. So at the moment, I'm in my sticking up for myself era. So I asked my husband if he'd had any girls over whilst we were in Fiji. And of course he did. And then he got really mad at me. And then he began to question if he was even the father of our children. Like, what? He was accusing Steve of actually being the father. He was like, they even look like him. Like, babe, your brothers, they're gonna look somewhat like him. So now he's forcing me to get a DNA test on both of our children. And after this, I straight up told him that I wanted a divorce. And I was actually shocked by how he reacted. He got so upset. Not the get up and start crying upset. More so the defeated. He lowered his head, like really disappointed. It was at this moment that he realised how much he had messed up. And not just the relationship with me. He realised that he'd ruined part of his kid's life. And he'd also done a lot of bad things to Steve as well. He then apologised. And he began begging for us to be able to work through it. And I'm not gonna lie, I really heavily considered this because I saw the guy that I'd fallen in love with in high school again. But then I stood up and realised who the fuck I was and realised there was absolutely no way in hell this man was getting another chance. He was begging me to make sure that he would be able to see his kids, and I said that that wasn't an issue, but it had to be on their terms. After this, I chucked my husband out the house. I booked him an Uber and I told him to go wherever he needed to go. He packed up his stuff and went really peacefully, actually. After that, I told my kids to go and unpack upstairs and just take some time to chill, and this meant that me and Steve could have a chat about how we were going to move forward. We spoke about everything that had happened on the trip and how special it was for us, and we decided that we were really going to give it a go at dating. But we agreed that we were going to do this once the divorce was finalised, and it would also give the kids some time to readjust as well. I told the kids that they were more than welcome to see Steve whenever they wanted to, but he wouldn't be moving in with us straight away. Okay, so some little random updates. The kids have been in therapy because I thought it'd be a good idea for them to go to it. There's been a lot of big changes recently, and they seem to be getting on really, really well. The DNA test came back, and it proved that my husband was, in fact, the father. And then during our divorce proceedings, my husband's decided that he would like to get sole custody of the kids. This being the man that called them little brats, didn't want to go on holiday with us and hasn't looked after them for the past 2 years. Let me know your thoughts in the comments.